the revelations in that book were unbelievable. When you were a young doctor and you were an ER doctor and you're dealing with trauma and bullet wounds and all manner of trauma, what was the moment for you that transformed your life? That you said, there's something bigger here, and you went down this path?
Well, it really, I went down that path and when I was a child, when I had a sighting of one of these objects when I was 8 years old, very close daytime. I mean, next week I'll be 68, so I was about 60 years ago in the early 1960s. But it ignited a lifelong interest. And then, of course, it coincided with my uncle designing and working on the lunar module, put the first man on the moon.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. His uncle was involved. I think he was an instigator. Maybe he owned, I think he said Northrop Frye or something. What's Northrop Grumman or something? Northrop Frye. Uh-oh. His uncle is part of the program that built the lunar module that never went anywhere because space does not exist the way they tell us, but he is going to tell us about his uncle who was involved in sending men to the moon. This is what he's about. Now he's going to tell us about aliens. He has been telling us about aliens. This man is not credible anymore because any rational human being understands, as Werner von Braun even said something about the firmament. Werner von Braun quoted the Bible saying, we are under the firmament. We cannot get out of the bubble. However, this man quotes Werner von Braun as the guy who shot the rockets in the space, and the thrust of the rocket in the vacuum of space pushes something forward. How does that work? How does that work, Werner and Mr. Greer? How does it work when you thrust the rocket in the vacuum of space? How does that work? Yeah, but anyway, a little more.
Allegedly, the first man.
So,
He was dealing with jet thrusters and rockets at that branch of Grumman that became Northrop Grumman. And his whole career was at Northrop Grumman. But he wasn't read into the anti-gravity part. I mean, the things that were going on off book, deep black. So, but he very much encouraged me to get involved and look into this because he knew it was real.
Very subtly, I'm just going to suggest that I would never argue that there is technology we don't understand and we don't know about. But the shift into the alien consciousness from somewhere in deep space, in the vacuum of space, I guess they don't have thrusters, they have anti-gravity. Oh, yeah, okay, well, people, the alien card is ratcheting up. This guy's been in the forefront and pretending that he's been hammered and punished by the authorities. Well, I could see punishment happening if you reveal, if you threaten income sources. Yes, I don't know what's behind the motivation here to propagate this weird story about outer space, places we've never gone to that don't exist. I'm gonna go. I'll let him run a little more, and then I'll show my face.
Things you hear things. If you're a premier aerospace engineer from the '60s working on the lunar module, you hear things. So that's why he was so supportive. He's passed away, but and so I began to dig into it. And the thing that really sort of disrupted my life, and not in a necessarily good way, was when I was asked to brief the director of the CIA for Bill Clinton, and found out that the president and he were being denied access to the project. And in fact,
listen, people, when you're in with the big boys like that, Clinton, that they call it the criminal Clinton family. So to kind of smooth over that connection, just, oh, when I went in and briefed these people and they didn't know anything, and yeah, I sort of cleaned their slate and rung their clock real nice, and you know, I managed to let them know all these programs are going on. Of course the programs are going on. Many programs, nefarious stuff is going on, but the attaching it to this alien thing now is ratcheting up, and well, I guess I'll let him talk a bit more.
I later learned that Clinton had been waved off and threatened by George H.W. Bush and told point blank, "Butt out, this is none of your business." Because George H.W. Bush was part of the committee running these projects quite illegally, and had been a former CI director.
Well, it
And
goes
now
all the way
people
back
get
to
confused.
his father, the Prescott Bush, as well.
Sure. Oh, absolutely it does. It goes all the way back.
Right.
Same thing with Paul Mellon. You know, we had Paul Mellon's grandson, Senator John.
Okay, I will now, I'll go to the face. Hello, YouTube and BitChute friends. I will load this on BitChute as well. So here you have it. Here you have it. He's invoking the usual suspects and taking us down a road. This is, again, the alien card is being played now. And I'm not even going to necessarily deny that there may be beings among us who are not like us. I mean, the mystery that we are experiencing every day is so complex. There are so many factors to consider when we attempt to understand the expanse of this mystery. How magnificent. When people talk about technology and inventing shit, they can't even come up with a dust particle. They can't create anything out of nothing. So when you imagine yourself inside this mystery and you say, I suppose you can go into creation story and you have fairy tales about biblical fairy tales and what are called Christian and Hebrew scriptures, where these fairy tales are embellished in some way that connect us to a story we can comprehend and understand, sort of. Not really, but sort of. When it becomes sort of unicorn children's stories, we seem to be able to relate to it better than it being more complex, like, for example, the Kabbalah and understanding scriptures through the equations that were being presented to us. This is a whole other level of understanding the story through numbers and equations. It's another way of approaching the mystery, and there have been people who have understood this much better than I or anyone else alive now, that were responsible for what are considered scriptures, the writings, the wisdoms of the past. People may have known were a lot smarter than we are. So I'm going to interject just my proposition here. I'm not even going to say, oh, these spacecraft don't exist and anti-gravity doesn't exist. I don't know. It probably does. And the idea of reverse engineering, the idea it's a non-terrestrial entity is hooey and bogus. If anything, these are entities that have been here for tens of thousands, maybe millions of years, that are mixed among us in some way. And that we cannot fly across Antarctica. We're prohibited to go to Antarctica. Why? Maybe that ice wall idea. How about letting people do? People that are incredulous about the shape of the surface that we live on, not like this guy who's promoting all the usual suspects, referring to all the usual suspects and players and warning us, no, we can't upset them too much because they're going to unleash, when they lose their power, they're going to unleash this horrible technology. What a bunch of fucking hooey. This is so obvious to me, especially when he pronounces space and Grumman and Northrop Grumman making rockets, and Werner von Braun even said that you needed the rocket the size of the Empire State Building to be able to load up with enough fuel to push you to the moon. You have to have lots of big Empire State Building, lots of containers to hold the fuel. In fact, the entire Earth maybe not have enough fuel to push the thing. I love the Germanglish connection here. The Germans are always saddled with this sort of doofus beer garden kind of personality like Werner von Braun. Doesn't mean they don't create damage around us big time. You know, these people are always mucky fucking with our China shop. But so a heads up again. I'm probably going to do a little bit more on this alien thing as it is being ratcheted up. And it's destabilizing the psyche substantially because he's obviously saying, oh no, aliens are good guys, good guys. And a lot of people in the, as he puts it, that are creating stories and scenarios where they say, oh, the aliens are a threat. Ronald Reagan wanted to have like a defense, what was that, a satellite defense network around the Earth that is floating in space at 1,000 miles per hour at the equator, and to have like a network to shoot down any of the intruders that might come, and hostility, hostility. Well, the hostility is within the human family. The hostility, and even of the beings that may be so far advanced that are among us, would be not uh, alien or extraterrestrial. It's of this earth. The hostility is of this earth. This is what I say in terms of the rational mind. Once it looks at all the propositions, has to conclude based on the evidence of the things that we're not allowed to do, like travel across Antarctica. Oh, it's too pure. Too pure for the penguins. We cannot disturb the penguins. We have to have an agreement with 56 countries all of a sudden to agree, everybody, that you cannot go across this place. You have to, oh no, you can buy an airline flight from Australia to Buenos Aires, Argentina, and it goes across. No, it doesn't. It doesn't happen. Show the flight. Take the flight. You know what? I'll raise the money for you to take the flight across and film it as you go across, and keep a record of it. It's never been done. It never will be done, because the earth we live on is not what it is supposed to be, what we're told it is. The world is not what it appears to be, I always say. So my point is, they're bringing out this guy who is invoking all the usual suspects in regard to making us believe certain stories that have been told that make sense, that aliens would exist if we've been on the moon, on this ball out there somewhere, and these beings, having such a much more advanced technology, they have to circumvent, based on the numbers we're presented about billions and billions and trillions of miles, that ordinary rocket fuel isn't going to work. So they're going to have some sort of anti-gravity, immediate one place to another place kind of travel thing, because the closest star is 5 light years, and if beings are on that in that star system that they conjure up, the unicorn out there that is called Alpha Centauri or whatever it is, how long would it take for these guys to get here on rocket fuel? 5 light years. No, never mind. If they traveled at the speed of light, supposedly, they would be here in 5 light years. So rocket fuel might take like 1,000,000 years to get here. Anyway. Oh no, the advanced technology that these beings possess allow them to travel in an instant, something. Yeah, that'll come up too. So I'm just giving a heads up again. Pause. The object of this exercise, throughout all the different scenarios you want to imagine, is to create something that we can attach ourselves to, because the normal human being, and when I say normal human being, is Joe Six-Pack average, I'm average as well in certain ways, have the inability to bear certain frustrations, like especially when we're not sure. There is a really, there is like a psychological, a sort of dangerous place people find themselves in when they're not sure. The uncertainty of something creates dysfunctional reactions, thinking, rationale. Everything breaks down within uncertainty. So the object of being a human being, one of the important things is the ability to bear the frustration of this uncertainty. In fact, to embrace uncertainty. When we're not capable of dealing with the unknown and feeling ourselves even threatened by the unknown is not an unusual response in people. So this is what the storytellers rely on. I was really big on Brother Grimm. I was terrified. I mean, the nature of the reason Brother Grimm was so successful, the Brothers Grimm telling stories, all these fantasies about the nature and the danger that lurks out there, is because they understood that uncertainty and fear together create enormous sort of psychic energy, and especially in children who are like a blank slate. So you tell them stories that 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 have elements of the almost supernatural, I would say, there is a level of fear that is attached to that. It's not like something we embrace and would go towards it, like, but at the same time, there's a fascination with all of that. And I think this has, I'm sensitive to this because I realize the Stephen Greer types and everyone responsible for interpreting the reality that we may actually observe the phenomena, as he says he was exposed to an experience that suggested to him some sort of off-world higher technology. I actually witnessed, when I lived in Spain, I witnessed a phenomena where an incredibly bright flash, we were sitting on the edge of the Mediterranean contemplating the night and the evening, and all of a sudden there was a flash and it turned the night totally into day. I would say probably maybe 5 miles out or less, I don't know, a distance out on the water, and it was a bright flash, and everything lit up. And Maria saw it directly, I saw it indirectly, and she said it was literally something that appeared and disappeared into a kind of a whole feeling thing. So there was an event that I definitely witnessed and participated in that could be considered an unidentified experience of some kind that involved the physical world in terms of light. So we were kind of taken aback and quite shocked. It was a phenomenal experience, but only because the complexity of that experience was not understood. We didn't know what the hell was happening. It may have been some experiment being carried out, and we happened to witness it. And to extrapolate out of that experience that is unexplained, that is a curiosity, that is a mystery, to place aliens on top of it is the story that we've been told that we need to do that. We need to put the alien card on anything we don't understand. Just the same way, if you read scriptures, we need to put a bearded guy in charge. It's a similar kind of thing. When we become overwhelmed by the mystery, we create stories that the mind can fathom. It's like the uncertainty in the mind is like it eventually becomes an explosion and it blows your head apart. Like the uncertainty in most people. Some people are really good with it and turn it into a creative force, but most people are incapable, like I said, of dealing with the unknown and uncertainty. There has to be an explanation. And then we turn to the experts, like we've seen in the shit show, the COVID goddamn shit show, how people totally succumbed to the experts that were making no sense whatsoever, telling us about this vicious little microscopic being alive, not alive thing that is going to kill the entire planet. 99% survival, even if you go by their numbers and their story and everything. There was no evidence whatsoever, but you see, the fear factor and the unknown, the thing we can't see, became so overwhelming that people ran toward the exits and jammed the door. And this is the intention. This is like what is intended behind any of these operations. And this Greer guy, 100%, I have no doubt he's part of it. Now, I'll give one caveat here, that certain people are so convinced they experience something, and let's say there is an experience, the next step is interpretation and understanding. And of course, one person looks at a painting and sees a completely different thing than I intended or thought about and creates a new story around, as an example, a painting. A painting can be very a good example or an analogy to how people see things completely differently. So the same way, when we have experiences, the reality that we accept to be solid, the reality we think of as being the standard of existence, the physical reality I'm referring to, is interpreted a certain way, but as we go deeper, and it's been suggested by many creative people to not look at the world as it appears, but go deeper. So science has taken so-called microscope and go deeper and deeper, and it gets less clear as you go deeper and deeper. So we're kind of confounded and confronted with this experience, and the need in us to fill the holes in the vacuum is these Stephen Greer types step in their own way. And what I was going to say, it may be a well-meaning thing because he's misinterpreted the experience that he's having or had. And this isn't something that can be proven. The only thing that happens is as it is revealed, as we become more sentient about the experience that we're having, as in stories from thousands of years ago, tales about what is in German it's called Aberglaube. What is the interpretation of Aberglaube? It's like when you're susceptible to being overwhelmed by the phenomena. I don't know why I can't interpret it right now. The word isn't coming. It'll come to me probably all of a sudden. So that kind of experience of the world that invokes within us explanations that are fanciful and are completely disproven after we understand what's happening. Like thunder. It's like Thor hammering his anvil or something, thunder. So people actually thought there was a character hammering his anvil, and that was the explanation, until you realize that thunder is a phenomenon. It's an environmental phenomenon that, clouds bash together and make noise. So this to end it, I don't want to go on too much longer. I'm sure there's going to be other videos. I've been listening now to people, and the saints are going to deliver this message, by the way. The Greer guy is going to be made out to be a saint who did his best, but then we're going to be stuck with the fallout of all this nastiness that's going to happen just because Steve, he couldn't convince the ugly bastards that are running the show to not kick the shit out of us. He's going to try really hard to prevent the bastards from kicking the shit out of us, because all they want to do is kick the shit out of us. And I wouldn't argue with that. There is plenty of evidence. The litany of wars, history is basically a record of a litany of wars. There is no what we understand to be a peaceful existence. The bastards always have to kick the shit out of us and use us in order to kick others' asses and all that kind of thing. And the alien thing is just going to fit right into that. That's my conclusion. The antidote to all of this is courage, and the courage not to, courage, fear, and the opposite to fear is courage. Well, maybe not directly. I mean, you can still be afraid, but courage, you overcome the fear. There is a level of understanding the world that is not based on the brain, the intellect. There is a level of understanding all of the things we experience through what is considered the heart center, what I consider to be the caring part of us that is thinking about others, that is thinking about the world, the beauty of the world that we have around us to preserve it. This is the more important way of understanding what is around us. Not through this, because they can really manipulate us there. But it's much more difficult to manipulate the honesty within people and the heart, that sort of center within us that doesn't rely primarily on thinking for our reactions and our impulses. It all comes together, obviously, in some way, because we have a mind, we think, but it needs to be mitigated by something that is understood to be the heart center. So my invocation and my appeal is for people to feel the love and the caring for everything that is around us, which will ultimately dissipate the stories we're being told now. It'll destroy them utterly, completely. And if there is technology that we don't understand, which he refers to Tesla again, I'm not sure about the Tesla story. That guy obviously was onto something in different ways. He had connected with some sort of the reality that we understand. He went to the next level of understanding in some way. And this is not alien. This is of this world. Tesla is not about aliens. He's of this world. And whoever is able, whoever has understood the Tesla part has been able to manipulate it and now is conjuring this stuff in order to kick the shit out of us again, get us frightening, huddling in basements like we did with the COVID show. And the COVID shit show proved definitively how easily it is to get people to do whatever the hell they want. This is the frightening part. It's not the aliens that scare me. It's how easy it had been for the bastards to just scare the shit out of people with garbage and bullshit and stories like you have to take 100 shots in order to not be dead in a few months. So it's like a continuous, it's like a rotating thing now. They're still trying to propagate it, but obviously people are realizing with, even in their numbers, that it was 100% survival rate on what they were claiming. I'm not saying people didn't die of stuff, but I'm saying what they're claiming, it was 100% survival rate. Whatever they came up with didn't work. If they had assumed it would work, it didn't work the way they had wanted it to work. So the next time around, it might be worse. I don't put it past them because people always suffer. The enormous amount of suffering, just look at World War II. The enormous sacrifices that people made in order to satisfy the bloodlust of the bastards. So I don't have any sugarcoating on these bastards. I don't, because the history has shown us they have no restraint whatsoever when it comes to the value of the mystery and life that is the greatest mystery of all. And they shit on it all the time. The greatest mystery of all is shit on in so many different ways. It's impossible to count how well they have been able to structure a reality of shitting on life. And people even openly admit to me, I had a conversation with a friend and they're literally like saying, my life doesn't matter as long as I just enjoy the things I want to enjoy. It doesn't matter if I die. If I enjoy something that is bad for me, I don't mind. And maybe that's a worldview that's, I don't think it's a working worldview, that if everybody decided that I'm just going to indulge the things I like and not be conscious of what it is that this life has offered me and what I need to do in order to protect and serve it properly, just to say a free for all. Just like, for example, if you're an addict and whatever it is you're addicted to, you just continue to do it no matter what, knowing that it's going to have some very serious side effects, maybe even death. But then the person says, like my friend who said that, no, if he dies, he dies. He's not going to change the habits and the addictions and whatever. So it's disturbing that when what we believe to be the most sacred thing in terms of what we understand about existence, life itself, and I don't even think in terms of a life sacrifice, that there are noble people who see a greater purpose in sacrificing themselves. I don't diminish that whatsoever. But the idea of a frivolous approach to this incredible phenomenon called life within this mystery, and to not treat it with what it deserves, that's a whole other topic. I'll leave that. Anyway, my thoughts on the aliens. So beware, the saints are starting to come out. The Stephen Greer has been in the wings for quite some time now, and they're going to pull this guy out of the woodwork, and we're going to get a shitload of stuff put on our plate now. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is some kind of apparition of some sort that will just be phenomenal, and it'll be interpreted in a way that serves the bastards.